welcome back to another edition of Leaving the Ring Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Amilcar and Kenny. Kenny, Ponytail. What nickname are we going to call you now, Kenny? This is a new week, so we got to have something new, man. You know, I think we already used up the Keith Thurman. We've used up the ponytail, the Steven Seagal look. Oh, you're an Ugas guy. That's right. You are an Ugas guy. I'm not an Ugas guy.
I like Ugas too.
I don't. I think I'm one of the few that are just not excited about him. Not meaning like I don't like him personally. I don't know, man. There's just something that tells me that he's not going to be that next thing. You know, as much as that they want to sell him to us, I don't know. Just don't see it at all. But anyways, really quick here, let's go over the whole week. If you guys want to call him, we'll open up the phone lines in about another 30 minutes, man. Let's go 30 minutes because the fact is we got a lot to talk about here on Leaving the Ring. We got the fights to review. We got the fights to preview that's happening this February the 8th, which I'm very excited. It is a very good, solid card on Showtime. But, you know, we had some fights on Thursday, Friday, and even on Saturday before the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys had a chance to – if you guys watched the Super Bowl and all that. I thought it was a really good game. It was a tough game from San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs that are in Missouri. Not Kansas. They're not in Kansas, just to let people know. They're in Missouri, you know.
Yeah,
I know there was some confusing.
To burst your bubble, David, or anybody else's bubble, but I can't fucking stand the NFL. I really – it's just an evil empire. You know, between the pushing opioids on the players to, you know, trying to ruin the doctor's life, the guy that discovered CTE in Nigeria, to the fact that they don't have guaranteed contracts, to the fact that they got racist fucking team names like the Redskins and the Chiefs. You know, look, there's nothing I can like about the NFL. And to be honest, last night I was actually watching a replay on ESPN of Fury Wilder 1.
Remember you texted me, you were telling me that. Right.
Yeah, it was interesting. And also for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I think BT Sport has done some of the best boxing shows in terms of pre-shows for big fights that I've ever seen. I mean, check it out. They had a show that I watched today on YouTube with Ben Davidson and David Hay being interviewed by the Welsh fighter Jones, former champion, where they were just breaking down strategy for Wilder and Fury, and I thought it was great. But if you want, Dave, you want me to go through the kind of the rundown of the fights?
Let's do the rundown. Yeah, let's just do a complete rundown, and then we'll pick and choose the ones that we want to discuss. And Fight Fans, if you want to call in and bring up a topic that we missed or a fight that we missed about reviewing, you certainly can. It'll be 347-215-7598. But you're going to have to hear us for a minute here while we discuss and do the recap ourselves. Also, we're on live on YouTube, so you can go to our YouTube channel, Leave It in the Ring. Click subscribe if you can, please. You know, try to subscribe to our channel so that you're always up to date when we are on live, which is every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern time. Amilcar, that rundown?
For sure. So I'll start with the undercards, and for all our international fans, I know there were probably fights, you know, in Europe and in Asia and other places, but we're just focusing here on the U.S. This week. So we had the DAZN card Thursday. It was interesting. It's kind of tough, honestly, for me, given that I work Monday to Friday and I had to stay up late. But Daniel Roman took on Murdojan Akhmadaliev, and they were fighting for Roman's unified titles. He was the IBF WBA junior featherweight champion, and he took on Akhmadaliev, who had just 7 pro fights going into this matchup. And it was an interesting fight. I thought it was very closely contested. I found it interesting that repeatedly, and this is a common theme in these DAZN podcasts, they make a point and they want to just continue to drive that point home. I don't know how many times they mentioned that they were surprised or didn't agree with Danny Roman defending his title against this challenger. And they were even insinuating that he should have vacated one of his titles instead of taking on this challenge. Look, world champion, at least for me when I was growing up and still is, means something. It means that you defend your title against all worthwhile comers from all across the world. And that's what Danny Roman did, and I thought he put in a brave and game performance
in this video
in what was a close fight. But as you guys know, Akhmadaliev came out on top. What were your thoughts of that fight, guys?
You know, I'm not gonna take anything away from Akhmadaliev. MJ is what he wants to be called because everybody has trouble pronouncing his name. But I mean, look, I thought he had a good game plan. I thought he had a good performance. His punches are a little wide for my taste. I thought that Roman was doing a good job. I honestly believe there was a lot closer. Rounds were very difficult for myself, and I think for a lot of folks. I think Chris Mannix was one of them as well, mentioning that he was having a tough he was having a tough time of who he wanted to sway with who won what round. Because I honestly thought that the pressure that Roman was doing was fairly well, and I thought that he was actually dictating the momentum of the fight, you know, where MJ was fighting in spurts. And I wanted to see, because there was so much talk about how strong this guy was and, you know, that he was a puncher and, you know, et cetera, because of his pedigree. I wanted to see maybe just a little tad more of him being in control. I mean, he was in control, but I thought for me that for you to win that title, that you really have to show me that you took that title away. And I thought that there was definitely an argument in Roman fans to say that MJ didn't win that on a very clear decision. I could see that. I honestly thought, I don't know if you guys saw my tweet, but I was like, I hope we get a draw here, because I thought it was just that close.
I think the draw would have been a fair result.
I don't agree with that one, man. On this one, MJ, he was a swing. His punches were a lot sharper than face and not gloves. When he was good, his punches were like powerful punches, but there just wasn't punches for me to give him the rounds. I agree with
I don't know about that, man. I thought the uppercut of Roman was taking over. I thought the body shots that he was landing wasn't talked enough about by the commentators, like more on them. I thought that you know, when you say the cleaner punches, I saw MJ land maybe once in a while a good clean punch there, Kenny. I didn't see him really landing a lot of punches. I saw a lot of wide shots, and that was good for Roman because he was able to earmuff and catch those punches. You know, the only thing that I thought that Roman could have done better was cut off the ring, push him back, because he followed him kind of the whole night. You know, he was allowing MJ to really use the landscape of that ring to his advantage. And Roman was kind of content, because I think he thought eventually that one of these body shots were going to really slow him down. But MJ's conditioning was really up to par. I mean, I was very impressed with that, you know, with his conditioning. I mean, man, to keep that pace up for that amount of time in every round, I thought, okay. But in those championship rounds, Kenny, I don't know what you thought, but I thought that MJ was trying to play safe, and I didn't really like that. I mean, he kind of felt like he was the champion.
He definitely played it safe in the round. Nothing to do, because I feel like he was he landed a lot of powerful punches, body shots, a lot of uppercuts, like he was landing in there. You know, I felt like it wasn't enough. When MJ came forward, he would come forward with like 6 punches at a time, you know, and run around for a little bit. And it worked out very well for him, because he would land a good 4 of those 6 punches. He was way more active doing that than Roman was. He was guard up, trying to learn some block everything to more often. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
A little more. It's an advantage, you know. He was ahead in the scorecards. I think it was a smart thing for him to do, you know, add a little more of it. Run around and figure up on the scorecards. Just take your victory.
Well, the good thing is that the judges saw exactly what you were witnessing that night, because I honestly thought it was a lot closer. I thought the rounds I honestly did not feel. I don't know how you felt, Amilcar. I didn't feel on the 10th round or 9th or 10th that MJ was that far ahead that he could cruise these championship rounds. I felt that he needed to win a big, and I felt that Roman came out to win those rounds and did take those rounds.
I thought Danny Roman did very well. He pressured. He really did good work to the body. The thing is, unfortunately, you've been watching boxing long enough. You know that the body punching isn't always scored as much as it should be. And MJ was the boxer that landed the cleaner, flashier headshots. Whether or not they were more effective is obviously is something that can be debated. I think what's happened here is like always happens amongst boxing fans and people who watch the sport is there's a debate between, consistent work, including work to the body, and, clean, flashy shots. And I think Roman struggled with that aspect of it. But he was the champion, and I feel he deserved a little bit more respect. I thought it was a very close fight. Although I didn't score it, I felt it was a very close fight. And being the champion, you kind of expect him to get a little bit more respect than he did.
My final thought was extremely impressed with conditioning and how body work did not. I can't believe it didn't take effect. Around energetic the entire fight. He didn't even look like he was gassed.
I agree.
It was impressive.
Kenny, that's
he was in the zone.
And to further that too, you're talking about a guy with 7 fights who doesn't have a lot of experience fighting championship rounds. This was a 12-round fight. There's a guy whose amateur experience was in four rounders, and whose pro experience, most of his fights had ended in knockouts. So Kenny, you're absolutely right. The fact that he could go so late into the fight, absorb the brutal body attack of Roman, and still have energy in the later rounds, you got to tip your hat to him. I give him enough respect.
Yeah, no, you got it. You definitely have to give him that respect. I think with MJ right now, my feeling about him is I got to see more of him. I got to see when he finally becomes comfortable in these later rounds, like the way Lomachenko struggled with Saucedo. You saw that when he fought Siri, that there was still development in his part to get to where he wanted to go. So I'm wondering, in that case, like MJ, is he one of these guys that once he gets the title, we're going to see a huge jump, a huge confidence boost. Even though the boost was there, I mean, he was confident. He seemed very comfortable of letting his hands go when he wanted to let them go. I just was hoping to see a little bit more aggression on his side to try to put it more of maybe take the champion out, Roman. But those body shots, like you guys just mentioned, those body shots could really make you kind of rethink what you're going to do. Even though you may be the quicker guy and you're able to dart in, dart out. When Roman was landing those body shots, it could definitely make you say, "Oops, I'm gonna hold off just a bit."
Well, you know what? You want to talk about body shots and guys that are aggressive? Let's talk about Emmanuel Navarrete, who's the other champion in his weight class. That is a fight I'd like to see. Also you've got Ray Vargas as well, but the Navarrete fight, if that comes off, that's must-see TV for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I wouldn't mind a rematch with Roman. I think that he deserved it because, like I said, I think that everybody's on the border, on the fence of who would have won that fight, because it just didn't. I felt like there was business that was left there in the ring. I think both guys could have probably upped their game. I think there was just unfamiliar territory that if there is a rematch, I think we may see a much more action-packed rounds between the two.
Yeah. So moving up the card, this was the fight that all three of us are really looking forward to, which was Tevin Farmer and Joseph Diaz Jr. for Farmer's IBF junior lightweight title. Look, that fight did not disappoint. I was happy to stay up a little late on Thursday to see this fight. people are saying that Tevin Farmer had some issues. There's blinking a lot. He's always kind of been cross-eyed, which is probably why he wears those shades in a lot of his interviews. But he was blinking during the fight and looking up at the score board or the monitor a little bit. Yeah, but let's face facts. The guy that was dealing with a horrific injury was JoJo Diaz. JoJo. Yeah. I mean, that cut was terrible. It was terrible. The referee could have easily stopped that fight before the fourth round, and which would have obviously resulted in a no contest. I'd be interested to hear what you guys felt, because I felt that Joseph Diaz was up from early. And had they just stopped that fight in the 5th or 6th round, I think he would have won.
I thought so too.
He continued to fight the entire 12 rounds, and not just fight, but press the action. He wasn't trying to survive. He was pressing the action to the body, to the head, going forward the entire night. Look, I'm going to use a respect word. You got to respect Joseph Diaz, and the reason I really like this win for him is it helps erase those past marks on his record in terms of the first attempt at a title and then losing because he couldn't make weight. He's clearly dedicated. He's clearly passionate about the sport. He's got a lot of heart, and he proved it on Thursday night. What are your thoughts, David?
I have to agree with you. I thought that he fought with urgency in every round because of that cut. Like, he wanted to make sure that the judges took notice that he won that round. I know there was a lot of complaints about the DAZN commentary, and I was just telling you guys when we were off the air before we came on, I was saying, like, I have developed this new talent where I tune off certain people when they talk to me, and I could just focus on one thing. And I was really able to do that with the commentators. I was really able to tune them off, not lower down the volume, not put them on mute, but really just pay attention to the action that was happening in front of me. Now, I've taken a point that some of the guys, some of the fans that were either on social media that were having their rants about this were saying that, Sergio Martinez and Brian Kenny were solely focused on the performance of Tevin Farmer. And I agree with this, that they were really undermining what JoJo Diaz was doing. Look, if Farmer plateaued because of training camp, the way I believe like certain fighters have plateaued, when they never take a break, they don't give their body a break, they can top the ceiling and then they don't go any further and they end up leaving the fight at the gym. That can happen. But also, it's up to the other guy to out them out and show that they've plateaued, or show that just, that their game plan is just that far much superior. And I thought that's what JoJo Diaz. He went out there and immediately stood his ground and made himself present to Tevin Farmer. Remember this, Tevin Farmer's game plan was to push the smaller guy. And that's what they trained for. He just couldn't seem to shake out of that game plan. And in the instructions from his trainers, they didn't seem to know what else to tell him to do. They were trying to make him revert. But it's hard to revert if you've been training for 6 weeks or more a certain way of beating a guy, and it just doesn't work. It's hard, kind of rewire your brain to do something different. So big kudos to JoJo Diaz and big kudos to Tevin Farmer. Talk about what you were saying, Amilcar, respect. That's respect. He took the loss very well, and he gave all credit due to JoJo Diaz.
Absolutely.
The loss, like a team. Applaud him for that one. Back to last week's show, we were discussing who Farmer JoJo Diaz. I said that we hoped he won, but we didn't know if he had it in him. He shocked us all. He surprised us. He surprised him in front. He came through with like a powerful, very energetic the entire time.
Yeah.
That was nasty.
That was nasty. Very proud that very shocked. I'm extremely shocked. Sorry. The entire time fight, I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe I was, because I've never seen Tevin Farmer look so like it's and get hit so where it's not on the swing and the hits are like landing
and rolling with it.
you know.
Yeah. No, I mean,
And
JoJo was
that-
hitting him. He probably hurt him early in the fight, you know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times guys get hit above the temple. It messes with their equilibrium. He might have taken a shot over the eye, over the orbital bone. That kind of messed up his vision and had him blinking. But, you know, like we said, JoJo was dealing with a serious issue. And one thing that's always going to trouble Farmer, and it's interesting to me that he was talking a lot before the fight about being the bigger, stronger guy, and that he kind of outpowered JoJo, is that he just doesn't have punching power, and not enough to earn the respect of a guy like JoJo, and to stop him from moving forward. Because once that freight train got started, that freight train had no fucking brakes. It just kept going and going and going, cut or no cut.
Well, you know what? I think Tevin Farmer too is lucky that JoJo doesn't carry that. Really, he's not heavy-handed, you know, because a lot of those shots, if it was somebody else, probably would have hurt Tevin Farmer and put him away. So he lucked out on that part. I know that Farmer's saying he wants an immediate rematch. I think the guy needs to rest up a little bit, go back to the drawing board, you know, because I think it is noteworthy to point out he didn't have legs. He was stuck in the mud. He didn't know how to adjust. There really wasn't any countering shots from Farmer's part. Like, he was trying, but he just couldn't seem to let his hands go. And I think partially one of the big reasons he couldn't let his hands go is because every time he thought of letting his hands go, JoJo was already on top of him, letting his hands go. He actually did exactly what we were hoping he was going to do, because he lacked that part with the Gary Russell Jr. fight.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, just like in the last fight we discussed, the winner here, Diaz, he's got some good and interesting options. I mean, I would like to see him against Burchell. I'd like to see him against Santa Cruz. I'd even like to see him against Herring. Probably in that order in terms of preference. But there are options. Shout out, by the way, to Renee Box, who's online. All of our fans out there listening to us on Blog Talk, you know, be sure to log in. You can chat with us online, and we'll try to read out a couple chats as we proceed through the show. So moving along with the card, you know, we had what I would consider the least anticipated fight of the night, Jake Paul versus an Eason Gibb cruiserweight fight.
Man,
what can I say? I mean, it didn't even last a round. It didn't last a round. One guy looked like he was a cartoon character in terms of the way he was fighting, or maybe a video game character. I don't know. And the other guy, you know, I'll be honest, Jake Paul did show some skills. He had a good jab. He walked Gibb into some shots. So big up to Shane Mosley, I guess, for training him and preparing him. But, you know, I just can't rate. I don't know how to rate that because of who he was fighting and the way the guy was fighting. I'm sure, honestly, that there were some cruiserweights that he can probably take on and be competitive with. You know, guys that don't have much of an amateur background. But I mean, what the hell would a Junior Dorticos do to a Jake Paul? You know, I mean, yikes.
I think this. Look, the only way I could rate it is that one guy actually was at the gym working on his craft. The other guy was busy saying, "It's my time. It's my time." Didn't even bother to learn how to have a boxing stance. He came out there looking like a crab. I'm happy that guy Paul was able to take him out in that first round because it just didn't look that great. Shane Mosley did a really good job with it because he taught the kid how to follow through with his right hand. You know, where you see a lot of guys that don't know how to throw their right hand all the way. They're not confident. So they end up, you know, putting the weight on the wrong foot, which would be their back foot, right? And they'll lean backwards, then throw it, and they come up short. He was able to lean forward after a jab, get on that foot start and then throw his right hand, which was good to see. You know, it's not the end of these YouTubers we're going to end up seeing, but eventually, I think like myself and a lot of other people that are watching this sideshow is that we want them now to start. I mean, you know, eventually, I'd like to start seeing them fight somebody with some credentials. You know, maybe not like one of the top guys, not the top 20, but maybe the top 40 guys. You know, maybe the bare knuckle guys. You know, that come from MMA and make a transition to boxing. Maybe that's a good start for some of these guys to really test their skills, to see whether or not that they're really honing down the skills that are being passed on to them from some of these legends. That to me would be interesting. That to me would say, like, okay, I know you're serious because you're going in the gym and you're learning the craft, but now it's really maybe that time when you need to step it up and really face somebody that actually takes this a bit more serious, because that kid Gibb, come on, he didn't take it serious. Well, it was a show for him.
I feel that it was a really fun match, and you guys aren't giving them enough provided, okay?
Hey, look, I used to like those back in high school. You know what I mean? I used to like seeing guys back in high school getting each other's faces. I thought it was hilarious and stuff, you know. But, hey, I'm giving up some of my hard-earned money to watch some real guys that are professionals and really take this serious. And that kid, Paul, he took it serious. He took it serious. The kid, Paul, took it serious.
David, the problem with sorry, Kenny, you wanted to say something? Over 2 last years, I don't really ever see YouTube stars mixing with like, you know, trained professional boxers, although they got them. This is not the same. I think they're just gonna keep them separate. A little YouTube league, that'll go. But sorry, you had it. No, I was actually gonna make a similar point, Kenny, and my point is the problem with what you had said there, David, is that, look, boxing fans don't care about guys like Jake Paul, right? And so I don't, you know, think about his next fight or whatever. And the fans of his don't want to see him get stretchered out. So, you know, for that reason, I just don't think there's enough of an incentive to have these YouTube guys take on real opponents, because we don't want to see the YouTubers, and the YouTuber fans, they want to see their guys fight other YouTubers. And they don't know. Maybe they don't know who a top 20 or top 30 or even, they probably couldn't name you the top 3 guys in the cruiserweight division. So, you know.
Then you guys are probably not as a thirsty ghoul as I am, because I would get some satisfaction to see a guy be humbled, you know, thinking that they could come into this sport and take on, you know, real contenders. I mean, look, how I look at it is, why have your foot just in the door? Walk through the door, you know? And eventually these YouTubers, they're going to end up finishing that circle. To me, it's a very small circle of guys if they could keep challenging each other at the cruiserweight division, you know? Eventually, if they want to stick around and do this, and if they still want to get this money they're getting paid, because they're getting paid very well, my thing is that they're going to have to step up. They might have to take somebody out of the pool, because even their fans eventually I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to say all of them are smart, but I would say a majority of them are smart enough to say, like, this is cool, but now I want to see you really fight somebody. Like I said, not somebody like in the top 20, maybe 30s or 40s, even like a guy that's making the transition from MMA to boxing. That would be entertaining, you know what I mean? Butterbean wasn't put in with the top guys, you know, ever, except for Larry Holmes when he was really over the hill, way over the hill. But, you know, at least he was trying to take on some really serious people of note that weren't known by every hardcore boxing fan, but to the fans that tuned in, that did enjoy his knockouts. So that's all I'm saying. I see the kid is taking it serious, and I give them kudos, guys, regardless, that they step into a world that most people are more comfortable discussing about it on their couch than ever really putting on a set of gloves and taking a punch in the face.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that, except that the guy he took on was Ethan Gibb. He didn't take on a real fighter, you know.
Yeah.
He tested TV against lesser opponent. I don't give him any credit for it. One thing that I will say is, I don't know where it come from. Like, yo, bro, you can have you at the age of 5 and also training for boxing. And you never know, could come up.
Yeah. Yeah, like Ryan Garcia. He's a YouTuber who can actually fight. Oh yeah, you're right. He's not a YouTuber. He's a social media guy. Yeah.
Category. You know what I'm saying? Like a dude was very popular for, showing on social media. Got very popular, and then he actually had boxing skills.
I mean, I agree with you, Kenny. I agree with you, Kenny. I mean, look, I think the way the world is going now is that you see more people that come out with their talents because of social media. Ryan Garcia was an active fighter. Him and his brother have been fighting for a very long time in Apple Valley. They were actually, I had heard about these kids, about Ryan before he had signed with Golden Boy. He was being shopped around. I actually knew the guys that were managing him. One of the guys he's a really good friend of mine. But these kids are very intelligent when it comes to learning how to, get their talent out to the mass. And Ryan Garcia was able to become a market machine on his own. Where to the traditional way of getting a guy out there has really become a dinosaur way of doing things, right? I mean, I have to agree with that, But the problem that I'm having with this new method is that now there's got to be proof in it. Yeah, you're right. This guy named Jake Paul, he's just a star in the making. In maybe in boxing, we don't know. We do know is he's willing to take punches. Him and his brother. So the other guy from England, they're willing to take punches. They're willing to do the regimens of what the boxers are doing to be in shape. They're willing to go in the gym and learn by people that can actually pass some really knowledge to them. But my thing, I guess the only way I could put it is this, okay? And I was making fun of a couple of guys that listen to all the new hip hop nowadays, right? They listen to this, like like the Tekashis and all these other dudes, right? All these rappers, it's like the Migos and all that. I was making fun of them because I was like, this, Eminem just dropped another album, right? And I'm not a major Eminem fan, but like 3 of his tracks, or one of his tracks alone, literally slaughtered all these kids from YouTube that rap, that got discovered off YouTube. I mean, literally just the smallest stuff. So I always say that there's got to be real talent, You got here, but now you got to prove that this is the reason why you can hold your ground here. You can be on the top of the hill. That's my only thing. That's why I say, Jake Paul, you want to show that you really got something there. Then eventually when you kind of end up, or in his brother, if you guys end up starting to take out all these YouTubers, eventually you got to start showing the proof in the pudding, which is finding real guys.
Well, speaking about bad rappers, I almost shut off my TV just to go to sleep.
God.
I work Friday mornings. I got to be up early. What the hell was that?
That was terrible, dude.
Probably the worst rap performance I've ever seen in my life. This fool, prancing around the ring, talking about getting head from women when, like, the ring card girls are in there, and he's saying it over and over again. And there's nothing talented about him. There's no wordplay, no rhyme scheme, no delivery, no swag, nothing. And
nothing,
it
bro.
was one song. They gave us 2 songs.
Yeah, I know.
Once they started the second song, I was literally just ready to turn off my TV, but I went to the kitchen. I got myself a glass of water. I got back, and I ended up watching the Paul fight. I'll be honest, I didn't end up watching the main event, which was Demetrius Andrade versus Luke Keeler, and this is for Andrade's WBO middleweight title, and it was pretty much what I thought it would be, except for the very quick knockdown that I almost thought was going to end the fight relatively early. Andrade was essentially beating Keeler up for most of the fight. Keeler was kind of moving between trying to be aggressive and then trying to survive when he started to get hurt. It was just a smaller, lower skilled opponent versus a bigger, stronger, more skilled opponent that also happened to be a southpaw. And before I throw it to you, Dave, for your thoughts on the fight, I felt the stoppage was warranted. What I didn't feel was warranted was, and we mentioned this earlier, but at least before we got on the air, the Sergio Mora, what are you doing, man? It's like you're trying to break the Guinness World Record for saying the word check hook. I mean, multiple times, every round. It's like, Sergio, we get it. Let's talk about some other aspect of the fight. Anyways, what were your thoughts on the fight, Dave?
Well, I was like you. I was about to turn off because of that rapper, but I found it very entertaining and I needed a good laugh, to tell you the truth. It was a Thursday night. I was tired, worked all day. Didn't even crack open a beer because I had to know how to get up early on Friday. But to watch the audience's face, they're not even into this. It reminded me back of Box Nation. You remember that on Showtime? Had that little series, Box Nation, where they had hip hop music coming out, the rappers were rapping, and then they announced the fighters.
KO Nation.
Oh, KO Nation. There you go. KO Nation.
Box
There you
Nation
go.
was a station in the UK that showed boxing.
UK. There you go. Yeah, KO Nation. You remember that?
KO Nation. That
was even better than what we saw with this kid here. And but going back with Luke Keeler, I think that Luke was utterly surprised as much as we were in how aggressive Andrade came out in that fight. In the first round, dropping him, rocking him, throwing these vicious overhands that were landing pretty clean, and he was able to do everything that he wanted to do in there. But then again, it was against Keeler, and Keeler just couldn't get his legs going. I mean, he couldn't execute anything just because of the fact that Andrade was able to be aggressive. And when he was an aggressive, he became a boxer. He boxed. He was able to move. I don't know if he really dodged any punches either, guys, because I don't remember Luke even trying to land a punch. He was in such in survival mode to the rest of after the first round to the second round all the way down. He was on survival mode the whole time.
Luke tried to land punches too short to reach. And,
Right.
To say this was the most boring fight of the night, even more boring on the YouTube. This went exactly the way that I mean, I can see a knockdown in the first 2 rounds. By 5, 6, 20 knockdowns were coming to be over. Man, it's very much as I was expecting. Andrade could find some people to fight. Luke Keeler looked like.
You weren't entertained?
No,
Kenny, you weren't entertained.
It's fun to see the knockdowns, exactly what I expected. Like, for real, the card, I thought it was much more they fight. I don't know, maybe the style of fighting is sideways. I don't know, man.
I was actually entertained with them.
I'll tell you why I wasn't entertained, David. I wasn't entertained because it was a mismatch. I mean, reason Keeler couldn't get in there and do anything is because he's already an undersized middleweight. And I actually didn't watch the fight on Thursday night. I paused my DAZN and then I watched it when I got up in the morning early before work. And, maybe I was drowsy and a little tired getting out of bed. I didn't have my coffee yet, but I'm with Kenny on this one. I wasn't excited. I do give him credit for the win. He did what he had to do. But do I see Canelo beating him or beating down the door to fight Andrade based on this performance? Or more importantly, fans clamoring for a fight with Canelo? I don't.
I tell you why I was entertained. One is because we know that Andrade can sync up the place. He could have cruised this whole fight, played it very safe, and made Luke look a little better than what we all know he is. But instead, what he did is he went out there and he showed us that, yeah, you're right. This is a mismatch. He took advantage of it. He showed aggression to a guy that he knew was smaller than him and couldn't really do much, couldn't get off or anything. They knew what they got themselves in. They knew what they signed up for. They knew who they had in front of them. So he could have milked it. And instead of milking it, he decided to serve us right away to get us send us home early. And that's why I enjoyed it, because I honestly thought it was going to go the full 12 rounds of him just, showing how much further he is in skill level than Luke Keeler. But instead, he went out there to try to make a statement, which people have said he needs to do. He needs to make a statement. He needs to show us that he can be aggressive, that he can land a big punch. The problem is it's against Keeler. He did his job. He did what he was supposed to do. I'm happy he did that. I was entertained that he actually went out there and tried to do that for us, because like I said, he could have stunk up the place.
He needs to make a statement. Much bigger opponent. Yes, I'm happy he won by knockout.
You can't do that, Kenny, if nobody wants to fight you, though. Can't do that if nobody wants to fight you. You know what I mean?
Run around for 12 rounds and stink up the place. I make statements that he's running to make statements against bigger people. It's exactly what I expected to see. I would have actually had a lot of disgust if he didn't knock him out. I used to like Andrade a lot. Fight more and more. The guy was more and more boring. Fights less and less and less. And if I was somebody, neither. The dude runs around for a couple of seconds here and there, but it's a fight,
Well, here's the thing. He's a WBO champ. I've mentioned this before with this title. The WBO title is not as coveted, despite what people may think, as the WBC, for instance. His number one contender under the WBO is actually Jaime Munguia. So, David, I'd be interested to hear what you think about that.
I mean, if that's the only fight that he can get, go for it. I think that's a great fight for him. Look, my problem is this: is that when we're calling a fighter boring, and he's being avoided. Well, if he was a puncher, he'd still be avoided. So to me, it doesn't make sense. To me, is if you have a title, then everybody else should be willing to fight him. Why is it that in the 90s, Pernell Whitaker, and guys like Hector Camacho, guys that were boxers, everybody wanted to fight them. And you know why everybody wanted to fight them, Kenny? Because they held something that nobody had accomplished, being knocked out or outboxed yet. That to me tells me that if any champion out there, if you want to test yourself of how really great you are, then you take the assignments that nobody really wants. So Andrade's one of those assignments. Yeah, look, if you got the star power, it shouldn't matter if Joe Blow here doesn't bring anything to the table because you're the star. People used to complain about Julio Cesar Chavez fighting nobody. They said, I remember when he would go train over there in Los Angeles, SoCal. I'm trying to remember the name of the city. God, I can't even think of the city and all that. But he used to just go there just to train. And they literally used to have to shut the blocks down around that gym because everybody just wanted to have a glimpse of him. And they would literally say, this guy could fight a cab driver, and he would sell out a place. So that's what I mean. These other guys that want to fight, that want fights and want to prove that they're the best. Well, Andrade's available. If you want to see him blow somebody out or to show that he's right up there with them, you got to give him that opportunity. And I don't see anybody giving that opportunity.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm not going to label him boring. I'm just not going to label him exciting. And the issue Andrade is facing is the fact that Canelo Alvarez looms over the middleweight division. Gennadi's not chasing Andrade. Gennady Golovkin is chasing a big payday with Canelo. Jermell Charlo would be pursuing a big payday with Canelo more than he would a payday with Andrade. And, they're talking about the WBA regular champion, Ryota Murata, taking on Canelo. Again, he would want to take on Canelo. So all of the guys with titles would rather face Canelo. And then the guys that he has under him in the WBO are people that, most fans are just not that interested in. And I don't think these guys are running from Andrade. I don't think Liam Williams or Kanat Islam or I don't even think Jaime Munguia would be running from Andrade. Whether or not his handlers would want that fight, Golden Boy, is another story. But I don't think that Munguia would have a problem getting in there with Andrade.
I don't think so either. I think Golden Boy though would have a problem doing that fight.
Yeah. So that was our Thursday night, or in my case, Thursday night / Friday morning. I don't know how many of you tuned into the Showbox card on Friday that was headlined by Ruben Villa taking on Alexi Gaujardo. All right. Decent fight. I wasn't super excited about it, but, you know, like the degenerate I am, I spend my Friday nights watching Showbox and not doing other things that I should probably be doing on a Friday night. You know, Bija won. He's 18-0, 5 KOs now. It was a unanimous, super wide decision. It could have been scored a shutout. Honestly, it wasn't. All of the judges gave Gaujardo at least a round or two. And yeah, what'd you guys think, David?
I'm sorry. Well, on what fight was that? What fight was this we were talking about?
Friday.
No, I know that.
Friday
Showbox. What fight though? What fight were we talking
this
about?
Was the main event that I mentioned, the Ruben Villa Alexi Gaujardo fight. Yeah.
The kid from Salinas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I thought he did a really good job. The kid from Salinas, the only thing that he lacks is that power. He's got he's one of those guys that I think they need to match him well every time out, and and they keep doing that with him. I think he'll do fairly well. I think that the problem is that eventually somebody's going to be able to walk through those punches that he does, because he doesn't do everything. I mean, he's not great on anything particular. I don't know if you guys got that sense. I think he's good on what he does, but overall it's just good, and sometimes good is just not good enough.
Yeah, it was a workmanlike performance.
It was.
That makes you question whether or not he has what it takes to become like a championship caliber a fighter. The Showbox series has always been a developmental series, but at this point he's got a lot of fights under his belt, so you anticipate making the next step up. But he's got 18 wins, only 5 by KO. Like you said, if you ask yourself what's his best punch, or what's his best attribute, it's like the video game player that's got kind of an even score across the whole thing and nothing really jumps out at you.
Right?
Yeah, so they have, like you said, they have to match him very carefully, because you look at who's in this division. You're talking Josh Warrington, Gary Russell Jr., Shakur Stevenson, Zhu Kang, and you've got my guy from the UK that actually felt beat Warrington. That was like one of the worst decisions of last year. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, he's there as well. So yeah, there are a couple undercard fights. He's just got I mean, he's got a good following, and I know there's going to be some people that are going to hate. They're going to hate that I'm not rooting for the kid, because Salinas is so close to where I was born and raised from, San Jose, California, and Salinas is right above Gilas, because I know a lot of people that were like, they'll go, where you from, David? I'll say, I'm from San Jose. And I go, where you from? Oh, Gilas. And I'll be like, oh, shit, that's right. They call Gilroy Gilas, and they call Salinas, or whatever, right? Wow.
And, they always think like you should root for the guy that's from around your area, the Bay Area and all that. And I do. Yeah. I want good for him, I absolutely do. But, the problem that I've always seen with Northern California Bay Area fighters, if you really look at their style, is they're not very big punchers. Perez. Remember Prince Perez, the kid that passed away, who I knew very well. He ended up just dying last year in Mexico. He had a great style, action style, pass style, but didn't have no punch behind him. And then you got this kid here. I just see so many of these guys from North California. They come out of my city that don't really have that punching power. They don't really carry that. They're more trained to be, more of that Olympian style. They let their hands go a lot, but they're not really sitting on those punches. The kid from Slate's got to learn how to sit on those punches. I still see a lot of amateur in him that they got to shake off. They got to teach him how to sit down a little bit more, and just be able to do, because, like I said, eventually he's going to meet somebody that's going to walk through those punches and take the fire of the little buzzing that he does and land some big, heavy shots on him. But I wish him the best. Keep it up. But like I said, the matchmaking is going to be evident when it comes to his career.
Yeah, and my apologies to anyone out there in England, and specifically Sheffield. I just had a brain freeze. It's Kid Galahad, who is honestly one of the top fighters pound for pound. He should be undefeated. This guy's an incredible master boxer. I think he's the best fighter in this weight class, actually. And what happened to him last year against Warrington was really a travesty. Him getting robbed in that fight. So yeah, Showbox on the undercard. We also saw Taras Shelestuyik. He got a unanimous 10 round decision against Luis Alberto Beron. And then what I thought was kind of a robbery was the Zora Hamazarian fight. He defeated in 8 rounds Suleiman Segawa. And I felt that Segawa had done enough to win that fight.
I did too. Yeah. I was kind of in and out of those fights and all that.
Yeah.
I was doing things and stuff like, but I did watch that, and I remember sitting there. I remember my son telling me like, "Oh, they just dropped this kid," and I had seen enough where I thought he was winning the fight, but it's one of those.
Yeah.
It's not boxing if the judges or somebody don't fuck it up.
No, seriously.
I don't watch no fights.
Yeah, you
I don't blame you, Kenny.
Miss all that much, Kenny.
Yeah.
It was really for the most extreme degenerates amongst us.
What Amilcar is basically saying is that it was more for us guys that don't have a life, and we just stayed home to watch the fights. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for outing me. Yeah.
I just outed myself too, man. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I just became one of those people that tell on themselves.
Yeah, the old saying goes, "It takes one to know one." So yeah, we're in the same boat.
Exactly, dog. We're in the same boat. I just became that guy that tells on themselves. when they steal something. Like, oh yeah, I saw you. Like, oh well, yeah. Well, he did it too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we can pretty much head over to Saturday night's card. And I don't know if you want to introduce that one, David, or
the Saturday night card on FS.
Yeah, FS1.
Sports.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. So
FS1.
I know you had something to say about one of the undercard fights, and I'd like to get into that as well. But I'd like you to introduce it, since I've been introducing these other ones.
No, go right. You're doing a fantastic job, brother. Go for it. I'll follow right behind you.
All right. Well, why don't we start with the main event first, then? Let's kind of reverse the order here. So, we had Ugas, a welterweight, who I felt a fight ago did enough to earn a victory against Sean Porter. And had he won that fight, it would have set up a big fight for him, a title fight, with a unification fight, actually, with Errol Spence Jr. And I think that would have been a really good fight, because Ugas, to me, is a more highly skilled boxer than Porter. And I've always felt that he, amongst all of the people in that PBC stable, would give Spence Jr. his toughest fight. He doesn't have the greatest punching power, but he's got more than enough punching power to keep people honest. He's an
Let's make
accurate
this clear,
puncher.
though.
Yeah.
No, Carl, let me just interrupt you. Let's just make this clear, though.
Yeah.
Everybody in the welterweight division is more highly skilled than Sean Porter. Porter is just as a freak of nature because of his strength, and he knows how to maul you up, you know. I don't think he's the most finesse fighter out there, but he definitely, what he does very excellent, and he understands that. And I think that's what makes Porter kind of a special fighter. Ugas, I got to ask you guys this, because you said right now that Andrade didn't excite you, like you guys weren't entertained. And Andrade had just fought a mismatch, you know, a guy that he was supposed to beat, and, you know, what we had just mentioned, about. Well, Ugas just faced Mike Dallas Jr., who is really not even a 147-pounder. And honestly, I was not entertained because he was landing solid punches and couldn't really do much to Mike Dallas. They had the good thing that Mike Dallas called it enough and understood enough. Like, there's nothing I can do with this guy. This guy's just blowing me out. He's beating me up. Goes to this corner. I don't know, man. I feel like there's still Ugas to me is just that guy that's good, but there's not a certain spark that I see for him. You know, the way I felt like watching like Rigondeaux or like Lara, I saw something with them because they could turn a fight with one punch. Ugas to me just can't seem to do that. You know, he's a better boxer.
He's not in that class. He's
not
in that class. Erislandy Lara and Guillermo Rigondeaux are two of the most special fighters that come out of Cuba and like the last generation of Cuban fighters. They're kind of the generation after Yoel Casamayor. And, you know, Ugas is part of that generation, but he's not of the same standard either in terms of amateur world titles, Olympic titles, or what he's been able to accomplish as a professional. And Rigondeaux's punching power, as we've seen when he sits down on his shots, is absolutely scary. Also because of how accurate it can be, especially from a counter punching perspective. Ugas does pressure a little bit more, I would say, than Lara and Rigo.
He does.
But
his style is different.
After accuracy or punching power, and or I would say their punch speed.
I think Ugas is Andrade impression. He's even letting the same type of angle that Andrade, which is kind of weird overhead. So he's even doing the same type of angle punch. Always looks great. Ugas has an amazing. It works, but
it does work.
I don't know. Knock him out.
You didn't expect him to knock out Mike Dallas? You didn't expect him to knock out Mike? Really?
I actually did.
Mike Dallas is a shell of himself. I know Mike Dallas, you know. I like the kid. I used to go and watch him train and when he was going to Gilroy with the Guerreros and everybody. He was going out there and he was helping out. But, you know, I mean, man, he had no legs in that first round. You could see that he just – the kid's not there anymore. You know what I mean? He's a sparring partner now. Go ahead.
Just to jump in on that and kind of double down on what you said, David, the reason I thought that he was going to get KO'd, well, there's actually two reasons. One is Josecito Lopez. The other is Lucas Matisse. And
yes.
I've seen him hit the floor before and not be able to get up. I didn't anticipate a one-punch KO, but I did kind of see a technical stoppage type victory, which is what ended up happening. And like you said, it's a lot of wear and tear, and he's a much lower skilled fighter than Ugas.
Very, very low, low skilled compared to Ugas. You know. Go ahead, Kenny.
Ugas has a 41% rock. I did not expect just go in there and knock him out. Maybe technical, like you. When I heard you guys say knockout earlier, I was one punch Deontay Wilder.
No TKO technical stoppage. Yeah, I didn't.
I just thought right.
Yeah.
Well, I felt that it was going to be a series of punches that would stop him. I mean, I honestly thought it would knock him out because because of how far Mike Dallas is from who he was in the beginning of his career. He's not the same kid anymore, and he's a much smaller guy. He doesn't belong in the 147 division,
No.
I can't remember when he started in his career, but this guy has been prone to be knocked out. Touch his chin. He's been known to be put down. So I expected Ugas to just fairly easily beat him up and not go past 3 or 4 rounds. I really thought that was going to be a short, short amount of rounds put in, but instead it dragged out. That surprised me. That really surprised me because of the level that Ugas is at the moment. I thought that his jab alone would probably have gotten Mike Dallas into just a world of trouble. That Mike was going to walk into something big, and he was, but it just wasn't. That power didn't seem to be there enough to put him down on the canvas. That Mike was actually the one that decided to sit it out. You know what I mean? To sit out. I'm done. There's no reason for me to continue.
I was watching this.
Yeah.
I'm paying much more attention to it than I did to what Andrade. Because I wanted to see not with after the whole shampoo. To change the style completely was, what are we gonna do? I paid very much close attention than I was ready. Because, like I said, I appreciate and enjoy his job. That overhead punch thing, that animation, yeah, man, I'm not really a fan of that. That's
Right.
The only power punch that he threw, like I didn't see him throw anything. It was just jab to the body and a funny overhand. So I found it to be a little boring. I did expect Ugas to win by knockout. I just really wanted to see to the table after losing to Sean Porter. It was okay.
Yeah. So moving on. I don't think we need to go too deep into the undercard, but I thought that one fight that is worthwhile discussing was the fight between Raymond Gaujardo, who went into the fight 5-0 with 4 KOs, and he went in there against a guy named Clay Collard, who fights out of the boxing hotbed of Cache Valley, Utah, and who had a record going into this fight of 5 wins, 2 losses, and 3 draws, 2 KOs. And the commentators mentioned that, he's been struggling as a fighter, which he has, and that he admitted that this was going to be his last fight. And
not no more.
Boy, did he put on a show. Raymond Gaujardo went in way too cocky, way too arrogant, was in love with power, which is debatable whether it exists over kind of anything over low to, let's just call it a low-level opponent. And he just refused to show any kind of defense at all. It was
who he reminded me of?
Yeah.
You know who he reminded me of without the skill, though? Was Fernando Vargas. Really cocky, felt like he carries Mike Tyson power, and he goes out there, and here's the thing is that, look, the kid fought the wrong game plan. He went out there trying to, literally take off Collard's head. But I also kind of blame the camp. They didn't bother to look at Collard's background. They didn't bother to look at the opponents that he's lost to or he's beaten. Because if you go to Collard's box record, you go look at the matches, he's got a pretty solid career. He's been put in. This guy is not like one of these guys that you're going to just, that was not given anything. He had to actually fight for what he has. And I think Collard was at that point. He's older, and he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to really get anywhere because, obviously the money's going to be going to the prospects. So Gaujardo went out there thinking, I'm going to do a showcase. I'm going to blow him out. As a prospect with no freaking jab, guys. I was like,
No jab.
what is this kid doing? He just walked into the fire. And that was my main problem, is that this kid's mindset is the trainer's job is to really humble the kid down. Bring him down to earth. We know you're good. We know you got power. But you got to remember that the other man is trying to do the same things, take your head off. And it's immediately, within that first 5 to 10 seconds, you had an explosion. I mean, there was no set to, set the mood. There was no candle. There was no dinner. It was immediately jump on each other. It made a great fight and a great, first round, which I say round of the year. I loved it all the way from the beginning to the end, because I always like to see a fighter be brought down to earth and be reminded that the other guy has a set of arms too. But looking at everything this kid did, he walked in with no jab. He squared up. He never howled, and he never decided to box after. When he went back to his corner, they were trying to wake him up, but they never gave him that advice like, hey, box, what are you doing? This is not an MMA fight. You're supposed to go out there and box. But instead, they didn't do that. And it's partially probably because, one, they didn't do their homework as well.
He never moved his head. He never moved his feet. He didn't even back up. I mean, he just stood there and absorbed shots, thinking that he could obviously, outland and out Collard, and it just wasn't the case. And worse than his fighting, I texted this to you, David, over the weekend. I was just really not happy with the way he acted after the fight. You lost.
Right.
Humble pie. Collard's giving an interview, and he just interrupts the interview and starts talking about himself and thanking his fans. I thought it was very unprofessional. As he should have.
Right.
It was definitely a big move. He tried to defend, I think, a little. He tried to defend it all. If I take another hit, I'm gonna get my situation.
Yeah.
That's when he started putting the gloves right the shoulder, whatever, which wasn't even working at all. And he was trying to power the bigger ring, kind of out there. Every time he landed that power, the power hand on his, it put back his head, and it's his fault that he lost the fight. And that was the best fight of the night. That Collard is still going to go to MMA. And I think he said that he's chasing wherever competing with.
Right.
He thinks the MMA is the bigger bank. Who knows? Maybe somebody else. Some other type of fight,
Well, I would definitely like to see a rematch, and I think it's well deserved that they pay him a lot more. And I think a lot of fight fans want to see Collard back in there. To make out another point is this. I've always said this: because you sign a guy young, doesn't necessarily mean that maybe their style is good, but they're not fully developed. And Collard was able to show that you're fighting somebody with man strength, was landing some big shots. And the kid had to find his spot. He had to find his place. He actually had to be on timeout, and that's what happened after that fight. There's a big thing for this guy to go back on the drawing board. I hate to see young prospects get into such a war like that, because it really leaves a big portion of them in that ring, and it's really hard for a young man at that age, especially if you don't have the right team, to get him back on track. So I hope that he's back on track. I thought the ref, honestly, guys, I don't want you guys stop here, but on the second round, I really thought that the ref should have jumped in already. To me, it was a house fighter getting all the advantages of being able to stay in that fight.
I agree. There were a couple of moments when Gaujardo was against the ropes, or Gaujardo, was against the ropes and was just absorbing clean shots. And the referee could have easily called a fight, but it was like, this is the prospect. This is the kid that's supposed to win. I'm going to give him every opportunity to get his head bashed in. It was honestly getting tough to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Style boxing, coming on YouTube, he said, if it's a struggling fighter, an experienced fighter, you don't just with no method to madness.
Right.
I agree.
You don't.
Great comment, D-Style. 1,000% in agreement on that.
Yep, and D-Style is one of the originals from YouTube. He's the OG from YouTube. He's been around for a very long time. So you guys can actually follow D-Style. Find him on YouTube. He does some great shows. I actually tune in to watch his shows. I don't always get to tune in live. I always sometimes have to catch it, but a couple times I've tuned in live, and D-Style, man, does a phenomenal job. I love his takes in boxing. I like how he likes to think out of the box, and he's always bringing something of value to the table when he does break down the fight. So, guys.
You know what's crazy? I was knocking the YouTubers earlier tonight to a certain extent, but Jake, no, I don't mean in terms of D-Style. Big up D-Style. I meant in terms of Jake Paul. To me, Jake Paul showed more boxing ability and a boxing brain than and not to mention more respect for Anderson Gibb than Collard received. You know, Collard was just given no respect, and to Jake Paul's credit, I actually felt Jake Paul did a much better job boxing.
Yep, he did. He played it much more smarter, you know, and I think, you know, for Collard, I mean, look, he's very limited. He's limited in his boxing skills. He's an MMA guy that made the transition to the boxing. Now he's thinking about going back. It's going to probably stick around because he said he is going to stick around in boxing because of what happened. It was a very huge upset. He beat a very, very likable and talked about prospect, you know. But the truth is that now that everybody knows that Collard's got a punch, you know, that he really knows how to sit behind his punches. I think that's where that kid and his team should just go back and re-see that, talk to the promoter and say, we want that rematch. I made a big fool of myself. And I threw away the best thing that I brought to the table, which is actually boxing pedigree. I actually understand the sport. I grew up in the sport. I have the footwork, and I can put the punches together. I could be the smarter fighter, but then I acted like a fool. It's very hard. To me, man, that's a huge pill to swallow. That you beat a veteran guy that really didn't grow up in the sport, but is tough as nails. And like D-Style just said, should have given him his respect because he's another guy that's across from you trying to take off your head, you know. But for me, that kid and his camp, especially his camp, guys, that pill should be very sour right now because that shouldn't have happened to a prospect like that on Saturday night.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So that kind of sums up my week or weekend of boxing, David. I don't know if there's another fight you want to discuss that we might have. I don't know if you're interested in the Omar Juarez Angel Martinez fight that took place, but that.
No, I think we're going to open up the phone lines here for everybody. If you guys want to call in, you certainly can. 347-215-7598. A couple topics we are going to bring up. We're going to talk about Andy Ruiz and maybe the pick of a trainer that is going to be underneath him, helping him out, trying to get him to be disciplined. Not train him. I just say not train him because I don't think there's anything new you could teach Andy. If anything, Andy just needs somebody to hone him down and get him on the right track and not be the Riddick Bowe of this era right now. As well as we're going to do the preview for, you know, King Tug and Russell Jr. And then let me see what else I got here. Going back with Andy Ruiz, man. He turned down the Dillian White fight. That's a big thing here. Something definitely we need to talk about. Get our thoughts and our opinions about that move that he did. But let's patch in. Let's see. Area code 510. You're on live right now. Leave the ring. What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, David. Hey, Amilcar. Hey, Kenny. How you guys doing? Fernando over here in Fresno. I'm over here in Fresno today, man. So trying to get some work in. I just called in right now. I guess you guys, because I barely called in. I guess I missed the first part of the show. So you guys already talked about with the zone cards. How good it was. The first two fights were like boxing after dark. You know, those are really good fights. So I had a good time enjoying that. I messed up, but I should have just turned off the TV, went to bed after that, though, because that stuff was garbage, man. You know, You know
it was
crazy.
man.
Like you know what's crazy? Like you really like I was a Max boxing member. I kind of nerd out on boxing half my whole life. And it always seems like boxing writers, or I would call like they always like to make boogeymen, right? They like to make boogeymen, man. That's what they were doing with Andrade. But every time I see him, man, he seems less and less scary. Like he seems awkward, but not in a good way. Like kind of clumsy sometimes. Like any other fighter would take him out that guy. Like, he fought a club fighter, man. That Keeley guy, he looked like he was serving. He just came out from behind the bar to jump in the fight. Like he just looked like a regular dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you think like with how should I put it into words? Is there too many hyped up boogeymen? Like is that a trope, or what's going on with that?
Nando, I gotta agree with you. And the thing is that there's no bigger driver of that train than Chris Mannix from DAZN / Sports Illustrated. I mean, I don't know if he's being paid to constantly bring up Andrade and him fighting Charlo. But yeah, thank you. But he won't. He always brings it up, and he seems to be seeing something in Andrade that I personally don't see, which is that all of these other guys should be lining up to fight him. I mean, Sergio Mora is at least a lot more honest about it. I mean, the guy's a southpaw. He doesn't have the most entertaining style. He doesn't have the biggest fan base. He's got again, I'm going to say this, but the WBO is kind of a lesser tiered title. Most people are looking for the WBC. And I just don't see a reason why people should be rushing to fight him unless they're in line to get his shot like Munguia. So, yeah, I agree with you. And I honestly don't see someone that people have really got to be that afraid of if you're a Canelo. I think Canelo beats Andrade, personally.
I think a lot of you. I mean, the biggest thing he has going for him is that big paycheck that Eddie Hearn's waving around for everybody. Man, I agree with you, Amilcar. Like it's been kind of a lot of hype on Mannix's part, but if I'm Charlo, right, it's not necessarily for the WBO belt I'm chasing. But I wouldn't mind that big payday, man. That's a big $7 million check, man, for fighting that guy. You almost have to take it, man. It's almost like giving money. Yeah.
I'd go take it, obviously, if it's legit. And Charlo's one of these guys that says he promotes himself. So, if you're your own promoter and someone's throwing $7 million at you, you would take it.
Yeah. I think they just need to get it out of their head already about Canelo, to tell you the truth, man. I don't really see Canelo doing much this whole year. I think what Canelo's doing right now is sitting back, looking at the landscape and just hoping the landscape starts to grow. There's got to be a new challenge, a new threat, something that makes fans want to come out to see him, because I think Andrade fight, it's going to be like another Danny Jacobs. It's really not going to attract or get the fans hot and bothered and want to watch that kind of a fight, And then again, like he doesn't really need Andrade. He's already fought guys with that style. I don't see him wanting to revisit something like that when he has all these options to pick, So even
Saul Alvarez could fight Rob Brandt or Toriano Johnson and make as much money fighting them as he would fighting Andrade. I mean, that's not hyperbole. That's fact. He's got a huge.
It is fact, but there's no belt. I mean, the belt would be the only. The belt would be the only thing that is worthy, because we all know this: fighters love belts. They like that shiny belt. That's what drives them.
If I'm Andrade, I'm looking at fighting Billy Joe Saunders, someone in the DAZN stable. Maybe that fight could be made, or I'm looking to defend against Munguia. I just don't see Golovkin or Canelo, who are the big players at 160, wanting to fight him.
I honestly
right.
See that for a long time to try to get himself a fight. So he's gonna cherry pick for a bit. I don't see him fight. Although, wasn't that fight supposed to happen canceled or something like that.
Oh yeah. Like twice, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
You know, we're gonna get some answers because I just remembered this. Johnny Zig, who does Let's Talk Fights here on the network, he's actually, if I remember correctly, he's going to be interviewing Andrade tomorrow. And
nice.
Yeah, I know there's going to be some questions about who they're looking at, why did he sign back on with his own? Is it because it was his only option? A couple of things. So I think we'll get some answers. So I'm looking forward to that interview that Johnny Zig is going to be doing with Demetrius Andrade. You know, Fernando, are you looking forward to this coming up Saturday on Showtime Fights?
I canceled it after the last card they had, man. The Danny Garcia card, I canceled it, bro. I'm tired of getting like the PBC leftovers, man. I'm not paying for PBC leftovers no more, man. I'm done with Showtime. You know,
that's exactly what it is, man. I mean, that's It's whatever Fox and FS1 don't want to put on their airways.
And what's crazy, brother, you know they're floating the Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz fight only because that's the only thing Showtime's going to get for a pay-per-view this year. They're not going to get Maggie Garcia on pay-per-view. They're not going to get Danny Garcia on pay-per-view. They're going to get the Gervonta Davis fight against Leo Santa Cruz. They're not going to get any of the top tier pay-per-view or the better PBC pay-per-view opponent. You know, so that's why they're kind of trying to force feed us that one. And to be honest, if I had Showtime, which I have had,
just like they're not getting Fury and Wilder,
right?
Exactly. You know, can I say one thing about Canelo, who I would like to see him fight? I know it'd be kind of like microwaving it. I would love to see him fight David Benavidez. David Benavidez is a fight I would like.
Oh man, that's a fight. Yeah,
that's a tough one for Canelo. Yeah,
you know,
I'd love to see that, bro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That would be a war, man. That'd be a war because Benavidez, he don't back down, man. He's a big, heavy-handed puncher. He stands right in front of you. He's gonna come toe to toe. I mean, that would be I might go to Vegas for that fight. If they do that, I might go.
At this point, that guy's the dog at 168 to me. I mean,
yes.
After Callum Smith struggled against John Ryder, I put David Benavidez over him. So I've got it as Benavidez. You know, I might even put Plant over Callum Smith at this point. That's a close call. And then you got Billy Joe Saunders, who I think is really still a middleweight. He's not a true 168. As much as I think he's a great boxer, I don't put him anywhere near a David Benavidez. Benavidez is the dog right now at 168.
He just doesn't fight as often. He needs to fight more, you know? And that's not his fault.
Scheduled.
I know, bro. He doesn't.
And the number one in the WBC right now is Vildrum, who is always in action fights. And, you know, the only person that brings the heat more than Vildrum is his manager. I don't know if you ever seen the video of him wilding out on someone in the press. But yeah, that would be a great fight, Avni Vildrum and David Benavidez. Exciting. I think Benavidez stops him though.
Yeah, I just think he's charismatic, just like his brother. Both charismatic guys, good talking shit.
Right.
I mean, you know, he's got a lot going for him, man. It's kind of a shame, you know, they kind of put him on the back burner.
And they back it up.
Yep, I was gonna say. And they back it up. You know, it's just you know, the sad part is that he's not being promoted enough. It's almost they kind of leave him high and dry. You know, he doesn't have fights scheduled. He's not being pushed. He should be in the face right now of every Latino fan out there. He should be in their faces right now. I'm very surprised that I'm not seeing more fans call for Benavidez versus Canelo.
Bro, I mean, what more do you want? He's articulate. He speaks Spanish and English. He's a handsome dude. A great fighter. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he's got everything going for him. He just needs the big fights now.
The Benavidez brothers remind me of the Diaz brothers.
What happened?
Kenny, after what I said, he thinks somebody has the hots for Benavidez. I guess I should have put a pause for homo after that, but yeah. I
wasn't gonna point that out, bro. I wasn't gonna point that out.
Not in that way. not that there's anything wrong with that, as they said on Seinfeld, but yeah,
I caught that too, Kenny. I caught that too. I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's very handsome.
Whatever floats your boat, man. Thank you for taking my phone call. I appreciate it.
I said very handsome
brother.
with
Thank you.
big accent, but yeah,
Thank you, bro.
that's funny.
He's very handsome. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hi, fans. You want to call in 347-215-7598. We got some of those handsome callers of all the networks of Boston here on Leaving the Ring. Oh man, that was great. That was a quick jab right there, man. I've never seen Kenny jab like that, bro. Kenny normally throws big overhand rights. That was like an Ugas jab. Bah!
Usually throws the haymakers. That one busted up my nose real quick.
It stopped you in the tracks, too. Boy, I never seen Amilcar blush like that. He's very handsome.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
He is a beast.
Can't hit.
Yep.
That guy, super humble pose. Lots that we haven't discussed. Which route do you want to go next?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw. I don't know if anybody here out there has seen the picture that Baby Miller, who just signed with Top Rank on a few fight deals, had put on his Instagram. Let me see if I could pull it up over here so I can read exactly what he had said. I should still have it because I sent it to you guys. So, and this is him because he was not asked to be on the undercard of the Fury and Wilder. So
no.
He was asked. I mean, I think he's been a little salty about it. But here it goes. It says, I heard Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder undercard is going to be a little dry. I think it needs a little juicing up. Yeah, I think I need to make my comeback on that bullshit. What you say, leave a comment below. I want all that smoke. Okay?
Well, the
Juicing
funny
up.
part was that he was trolling everybody. He used the term juicing and, obviously
Right.
the illicit kind of response there. The interesting thing with this undercard is that both promoters, Top Rank, and I guess you could call PBC a promoter, they each have an even number of fights, but I believe the only cross promotion is the Fury Wilder fight. So I'm guessing what he's asking is Top Rank to give him a big fight on the undercard, maybe
on that
a showcase fight. You look, I like Big Baby. I have family that's very close to him. A lot of people, and I was discussing this with you over the weekend, Dave. A lot of people don't know that Big Baby is Caribbean, Central American. He's a Latino. His dad is from Haiti, and his mom is from Central America and Belize. And he speaks Spanglish. He eats tamales. It's probably the reason he got so big. And it was a little bit disappointing within his community that he tested the way he did. He had big plans and ideas of things to do in Belize with development and boxing. And from what I know, it's kind of all gone by the wayside since that positive test. So he's looking to get back into the mix. And, when the positive messaging and the apologies and don't work, you guys will probably remember he did those video apologies. I guess the next is the return to being the bad guy and trying to troll and get your name out there like that. I don't know what you think, Kenny. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you
I
got to
think
eat.
I'm gonna hate on the guy. Okay, the guy tested with more shit in his body than a pharmacy. Didn't even come back. Look, it was a fake apology. He actually bullshitted in interviews, stating that he didn't get that the testing was wrong, that he didn't get popped for this, he didn't get popped for that. He couldn't even be honest. Okay, couldn't be. Nobody actually gave him the right questions. Nobody really called him out on his BS. Instead, they gave him a Snickers bar for him to chew on or whatever he was eating and stuff. And that wasn't the interviewer's. It wasn't the interviewer's fault. Well, actually, it is. They should have been up to the game of what he was doing. Okay, so that's my major problem is that he did try to dope himself up, which I didn't think he needed to do. I thought that I think he has the skill level and the size already to oppose himself in the ring against any heavyweight. So for him to do that to a dear sport to ours in a very dangerous sport already,
Yeah.
and to say that let's give him a pass because everybody deserves a second chance. I mean, man, this is a brutal sport. It is. These guys are not 6 months of what he was suspended for. That's a fucking pass. That's like far of a pass than anything that was given to anybody. Where a big suspension was needed against this guy. So he comes back to be the bad guy. He was playing the bad guy before, which I really liked. But now, guess what? It's actually the bad guy that I want to see get his ass laid out. That's what I want to see. Because that would be the reward.
I don't disagree with a lot of what you said, David, but what I will say is, what was Big Baby known for? It wasn't necessarily his extreme punching power. It was more his volume punching throughout the fight for such a big, large, big, large guy, like 300 plus pounds. He's still throwing,
right.
Approaching 100 punches around. The drugs he was taking were drugs that performance kind of endurance athletes often use in terms of EPO and blood doping. It's the kind of stuff cyclists get popped for and triathletes.
Right.
Him juicing wasn't really to do with increasing his size or his strength. It was more juicing that allowed him to fight in that high volume.
What makes it more dangerous, though, Amilcar? That makes it even more dangerous because he was looking. He was the criticism that he was getting. Just real quick, the criticism that he was getting before was that he was a valiant puncher, but he had long pause periods in his spurts. You know what I mean? Like he would let his hand. He would throw a 6-punch combination, but then for about a good duration of 30 to 45 seconds, he didn't throw a thing. He was slow-footed. He was like a David Tua in there. Where he was so big. It took him a long time to walk down this guy. It was his size that opposed that made guys back up on their own. Taking all those things that his endurance-wise, all that stuff that he was looking for to do, it was for that he could throw more punches and he could close that distance. He was looking to really, you're looking to hurt your opponent. But,
I'm
but
not
in that sense, what he was doing.
Justifying the action.
Right.
The action that he did was very wrong. I'm just getting into his psyche in terms of why he felt he might have needed to do that. Because, you were saying you don't think he needed to do it. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. What would he have looked like against Thomas Adamek and these other guys had he not been able to throw punches like that? We were not going to know until we see what Kenny was demanding, which is, stringent testing on this guy and check.
Right.
Yeah, because without that, we don't know what he's capable of. Because as far as we know, all we've seen is a drugged up Jarrell Miller.
Right, which we're not going to get with him. We're going to get either this clean sport program BS with him, or we're going to get the short period of if there is a 3 months thing, because you got to remember Avada, they just show up randomly, and it's not really like they're showing up every week to test the guy. The only way of being sure is that he goes under a very strange testing 365 days, because these guys on their off peak is when they're testing. That's when they're doping up. It's when they're in their training camp. That's when they're coming down. That's when they're coming off. So I don't know. I'm with you guys. You can't stop a man from making a living, but I don't see why we cannot continue to point this out about him. This is now something that needs to be part of his image. The way they would put on like guys like Antonio Margarito or other guys, they would put it in the mentions, of certain things that these guys did or did not do. You have to do it with Baby Miller. So I hope Top Rank and them, when he does fight, they always bring that up because that's something that's now part of his history.
Yeah, it is. As it should be.
Right. No. I was telling Amilcar, I go, dude, it's crazy because I really like that kid. Like, I really did like that kid. I actually was like that. He was actually, him and Ortiz were the top two for me, from my opinion. Those were the guys that stood out as the heavyweights that I wanted to watch. Now, Wilder have kind of taken that place, and the kid that Amilcar's high on, those guys have kind of taken those places and stuff, But whatever. I mean, we all know the reason why Top Rank signed on Miller because Fury obviously is going to need somebody after Wilder. They don't have a very deep stable at Top Rank at the heavyweight division, just like the welterweight division. That's why they took on Miller. So I'm interested. I'm interested in what Bob is going to do with Baby Miller. Is it going to be an immediate match between the two? Is that the agreement? Or are there going to be some fill-in fights in between? And that's what makes it interesting to me because I would love to see Miller and Ortiz. I've always said that. I want to see those two guys mix it up. I think that's just all complete fireworks.
Luis Ortiz, the Cuban?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I'd like to also see Andy Ruiz and Big Baby Miller.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's interesting, Yeah. So he'll join the list of a lot of other guys that unfortunately have been popped with steroids. I mean, the list includes guys even like Roy Jones Jr. So Shane Mosley,
Shane Mosley,
Peterson, Luis Ortiz. There's a lot of guys that have been popped.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
A lot of European fighters,
Eric Molina, yeah. Alexander Povetkin.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep. There you go.
Talking
about Andy.
You go through the list. It's a lot of guys.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. The list goes on. That's what I'm saying. That aura that he's created needs to stay attached to him. Eventually, look, like Orlando, Siri, these guys, they've kind of cleared their name because they decided to take these other tests. Like Canelo. The tainted meat. To me they've cleared the name because they did the road work to get there. To show like, hey, listen, it was a mistake. Or whatever the case, whatever happened. Okay. And until I see that from Baby Miller, I'm not going to be quite as giving. You
remember Jamil McCline, David?
Yes.
Pop. Where did he go afterwards? So we'll see.
Exactly.
You
into the politics.
Exactly. You brought up earlier Dillian White. I mean, Dillian White's last fight was against Marius Wack. Both of those guys have been popped.
Popped, exactly.
It's unfortunate, but yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
the heavyweight division.
No, not official. No. People have claimed it, but he's never tested positive.
Right.
Yeah, he's never been tested positive. But a lot of big guys have. I mean, look, Eric Morales, who I grew up really liking, he's been popped. The list is long.
No, the list is long, but it just seems like it's more, at the moment is heavyweights, they're juicing up, they're putting, foreign substance in their bodies, We can make a whole show of this, but I want to move on. Let's go to Andy Ruiz.
One last thing, though. The thing with Miller, like you said, though, Dave, is that he got popped 3 times. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Actually, I believe the number was higher than 3. I want to go for 5,
4,
if I remember correct. I think it was 5. 5. That was that is the actual number, if I remember correctly. I would have to go back and look and stuff. But let's not forget that Rigo and Solis is on that card. Is first? That's actually the real fight. I think that's the great fight there, the co-main event there. I think it's going to be an awesome fight. Amilcar, you want to go ahead with that? Because I remember I had put a lot of my input in that fight when it was originally supposed to be made, but there were some visa problems.
You're talking about the Rigo fight?
The Rigo fight.
Well, look, anyone who's listened to me on the next round or on this show for many years now knows that I'm a huge Rigo fan. I think Rigo is one of the more tragic recent cases in the sport in terms of somebody who I feel has been really exploited, mismanaged, and poorly promoted. Yes. When I stopped liking not that I ever really liked him. He's a boxing promoter, but when I kind of lost respect for Bob Arum to a certain extent was when he would just trash Rigondeaux. And, Rigondeaux gets a lot of heat for the fact that, people felt he was boring and this and that, but I've never felt he was boring. You just look at his KO percentage. Neither. He just destroyed most of his opponents. And what people often fail to acknowledge is that the guy, for almost his entire career, has been fighting out of his natural weight class. He's a natural 118-pounder, and he's fighting at 118 pounds against Solis. And when he fought Lomachenko, he fought him at 130. So this is a 118-pounder that went up to fight a guy at 130 pounds and just got trashed for it. I can only imagine what he would have been able to do as a pro if he was in his mid-20s. But we saw him in his 30s, and now he's pushing 40, and he's still savaging guys. If anyone wants to see the antithesis of boring, check out the Julio Ceja fight. Okay,
that was a great fight.
Right? Check out the KO of Moises Flores, which was ruled a no contest, but should have been ruled a KO. All right. Check out the Giovanni Delgado fight. Just go down the list of his fights. They're all, stellar performances. So I'm looking forward to this fight against Solis. It's tough sometimes. A lot of the South American boxers, I don't always know fully what they're capable of. Solis has fought most of his career in Panama City. Great city, by the way, if anyone is looking to visit. But against a lot of guys that we can't really rate, because other than Jamie McDonald, who he lost to and then got a no decision against, most of the guys on his record are guys that most even hardcore fans are not necessarily going to be able to recognize.
No, but he's getting Rigondeaux at the perfect time, in my opinion. Rigondeaux's legs are older. He's getting hit 40. More. Was that?
I said he's pushing 40. How many bantamweights are fighting at 40 years old almost? Not many, if any.
Exactly.
So,
he's a dinosaur at bantamweight.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of a 55-year-old heavyweight. Okay,
exactly.
It needs skills and reflexes and quickness and speed. So let's see what happens.
I'm really excited about that fight because, like I said, with Rigondeaux, the credit he's never been given that he could turn a fight with one punch. His career in the beginning, you watched him when he was a pro. Starting at the beginning of his career as a pro, he was a sniper, and I think a lot of folks had a problem with that because he made his punches always count. He didn't throw punches to throw away. He made his punches. They were very educated shots. Okay, like if he jabbed, he was jabbing to move you maybe an inch to the left or to the right, so he could throw the counter punch. His IQ is second to none. Very intelligent, but he was unfortunately, like you had mentioned, McCarr, just kind of outed out because he wasn't getting the proper guidance, and so he had to, fit whatever bill that was given to him, move up in weight, and chase down the big money fights because nobody at that bantamweight division wanted to face this guy. He was that dangerous and he was that hard to hit. I mean, you want to overall the sweet science. I mean, he embodied it.
Oh yeah.
He was
Absolutely.
Don't get hit, and he hits you. I mean, he really, really embodied it, and which is crazy because you see a lot of guys that would praise like a Pernell Whitaker, and they would be like, oh my God, Pernell's hard to hit and this and that, but Pernell didn't have that punch to knock out guys, and Rigondeaux really did. Rigondeaux was I mean, Rigondeaux's the guy that started to really put Nonito Donair's career, his first career, actually it's his second career because I think he has like three careers. He's on the comeback now, which is he's like my comeback fighter. But on the second part of his career, he's the one that really just kind of humbled Nonito. He really humbled him. I mean, just beat him to a pulp. So I really like Rigo, but now we're seeing Rigo's second lifespan in his career because he's pushing 40.
Yeah, and look, Rigo's shots, like you said, they were sniping shots. They were powerful, hurtful shots. Like when he landed, you felt it. I drove down to the boardwalk to Atlantic City and saw him when he took on Agbeko. And anyone who knows Joseph Agbeko remembers that this guy was a tough, come-forward fighter. And when he got in there with Rigo, he did not want to engage. It was like round one, he got hit hard, and for the rest of the fight, he did not engage. To me, apart from Bob Arum, the guy that was probably most hurtful to Rigo in his career was Dan Rafael. I mean, he just had it out for him. Anytime he mentioned him on Twitter in an article, it was some negative bullshit. And then the worst part of it was that while he's criticizing Rigo, who's KOing people, and he's calling Rigo boring, he's praising Mayweather and Andre Ward. It's like, I just didn't understood that.
I didn't get it.
And I had a lot of respect for Andre Ward, always have, same for Mayweather. But how can you appreciate those guys, but not appreciate a guy who's just as defensive, but also knocks people the fuck out? It just never made any sense to me.
I'll tell you this really quick, because I was there. What made me a massive fan of Rigondeaux was that you don't really get the full effect of how hard he hits and how elusive he is until you see him live. And I was able to see him in Las Vegas when he fought Rico Ramos, the Suave kid, and a lot of people were high up on him. And I'm right there at ringside because I was taking because I had to be the writer and the photographer for leaving the ring. So I'm right there, and I'm like with the camera. And I tell you what, guys, those punches that he was landing, on Rico Ramos, everybody heard it. Even Floyd Mayweather was up on top of the balcony to watch Rigondeaux. Well, he was actually there for Rico Ramos, but I mean, you heard everything. Those shots were just like boom, 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 and you literally would hear the air come out of Rico Ramos. And for a very brief moment, or actually more than that, I almost forgot that I was there to take pictures. Because I got so consumed in how strong and how talented and how elusive he was, And that's what sold me about him, because I was like, wow, man. I mean, I was sold on him. But let's go to the main event that's happening on Showtime, which is going to be Gary Russell Jr. and King Tug, which his whole name is very difficult. So I'm not going to even destroy it.
Yeah.
So I just keep calling him King Tug, you know.
Yeah, his name is very difficult.
Really difficult. Miambiard, yeah.
Tux the God.
Yep.
Tux the God. Of course, I'm trying.
Tux the guy, Miambiard, but let's call him King Tug here. I apologize, Mr. King
His
Tug.
last name is actually the easier one, Niambayar. It's the first one that I have trouble. Yeah, it's the first one I have trouble with.
I like this fight a lot, guys, and I'm going to tell you why.
Too.
Experience is you got to lean towards Gary Russell. You know, he's the more experienced guy. But what favors, I think, what evens out this fight for me is Miangabar and Russell. Look at their fight record. They both don't fight very often. You know, King Tug fought once 2018 and once 2019. You know, and now he's taking on this very tough assignment. But with Gary Russell, here's another guy that also does the same thing, but skill levels, I think that sometimes it works for him. It's just that fans like myself and the rest of the world, we want to see him be more active. Whereas he, after a fight, he always says, well, I'm going to go on vacation. And when he says vacation, shit, he really means vacation.
Yeah, well, he's got a contract that pays him $1 million a fight as long as he's a title holder. So he just has to make one mandatory defense a year, and he's earned $1 million a year. And guess what? Apparently, he's very good with his money. He's made a lot of investments, bought property that generates him income. So he's actually making a lot of money outside of boxing too. So he's got a little $1 million extra a year. He fights once a year. He's really good at it, and that's where Gary Russell is at. What intrigues me about this fight is that Bayar is 5'8" and has a very high KO percentage. From what I can tell so far, he's got a really good chin, and he's a good athlete that can throw punches and last. So I would like to see this fight as well. I'm very excited about it.
I'll tell you the one thing that he does that I think Gary Russell and them need to be concerned about, that because JoJo Diaz, for one, couldn't let his hands go. He was more and starstruck, in my opinion, with Gary Russell's hand speed. But the nullifier for King Tug, in my opinion, is going to be the right hand. He knows how to throw that right hand. That is his meal ticket. That's what got him where he's at. That's why people have been excited about him when he was in the amateurs, in the Olympians. He was an Olympian. This guy knows how to throw it, and he's very confident with that straight right.
Yeah, he is.
Very fast himself.
Very fast.
Seems to have some good. So this is going to be a hell of a fight. Has to be careful. It's not going to be no walk. But I do feel that experience will come out winning, because it's 11 fights. It's like that Lomachenko is doing that these days. Fights and become a champion.
MJ did the same thing just this past Thursday on DAZN against Roman. So it's starting to be a trend, and but like all trends, they have to end. Because my problem with King Tug here, Kenny, is that though he's tall, though he's strong, he's got good KO ratio under his belt with that amount of fights he has. Like you pointed out, the experience factor is still yet to be seen. But guys, the fights that I've witnessed, he has been overbearing to his opponents. But the one thing that his opponents have exposed from him is he doesn't have very good head movement. He does get marked up quite a bit. And this hand speed of Gary Russell, Gary doesn't carry a large amount, because really when his hand speed, he kind of dazzles you with it, but he doesn't really sit down with those punches. But that doesn't matter, because I go back and look at the guys he faced. JoJo Diaz, number one, who just took the title away from Tevin Farmer in the junior lightweight division, but he wasn't able to tee off on anything because he was dazzled by the hand speed, you know. And a lot of times, even if they don't hurt, they could be stings, and they're stings enough to make you want to hesitate of letting your hands go because you're afraid of what's going to come after.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. And Kim Tug not moving his head around enough back during this fight. Those things, man. Those hands, you know, got the pop.
Definitely.
Got good combinations on angles. And he lasted for a fight. So it seems like Kim Tug can also do the same head movement, has a little less experience. But Kim Tug on box, he's fought has had a over him. He's winning every fight. So we shall see.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, he's taking on, you know, guys with a lot more wins than him. I think the biggest one that jumps out is the Hermanito de la Torre guy, who was 19-0 when he fought, and also Claudio Moreno in his last fight was 23-2. So he's definitely taken on guys with a lot of experience. I always like international fights where you get to see a guy from a different culture come in and test himself. So I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be a good card. And big up to the PBC. I think they've been doing a pretty good job this year with their schedule and their fights.
Yeah, actually, I think a lot of their for the last couple of years they've been doing really good. You know, you know, I mean, look, you could pick and bitch about certain, you know, promoters or this and that, you know, and say like, hey, they're lacking here, lacking there. But I think in overall, you know, we're getting good fights. So I just want Top Rank to catch up. I know there's a guy on Twitter that follows me, and he's always saying I'm hating on Top Rank a lot and then giving him credit. I get credit where it's due, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just want to see him do a little bit more for Crawford. Hey, one of our listeners is telling us here on the YouTube chat that he's gotten word from a solid source that so the fight that's going to happen in May is going to be Danny Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao. I thought we talked about that. Remember?
Wow,
had that feeling. You know, that's a good fight. I like that fight.
I think that style is really good for Manny. It's just a question of where Manny is at, being, what is he, 41 now?
Right.
I think a pride Manny would destroy Garcia, and I like Danny Garcia, but you know, let's see what a 41-year-old Manny can do. That's what makes this fight intriguing. Yeah. Also, big up to Manny for taking on these fights at his age.
I know, man. Hell
the
yeah.
guy's a senator in his country, and he's still fighting top guys in the primes of their career. It's pretty amazing.
And he's not waiting for anybody either. I like the fact that he's not going to wait on any. Manny Pacquiao's not waiting on anybody.
Nah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole Conor McGregor talk, he could have said, "Nah, let me wait. Let me wait." But instead, he's still taking on these guys. I mean, Danny's not a young lion anymore. He's got some chip on his tooth, but he's still a very dangerous guy. Throws a very good, solid right hand, which has always given Manny problems. You know, the right hand's always been his Achilles at some point. That's what got knocked out with Juan Mata Marquez. He's been clipped with by other guys, but he always seems to know how to get around it and work on that. And I mean, you still got to look at his performance over Keith Thurman. That was a stellar performance, and it told us a lot that Manny Pacquiao is still a very dangerous welterweight, and still very, he still draws people's imagination. So big ups to that fight.
Say what you will, Manny's taken on better welterweights than Terrence Crawford has. And
yeah,
no, I'm being serious.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
He decided to sign with the PBC because he wanted to take on welterweights. So,
yep.
You know, Crawford decided.
And I agree with Jeffrey. I think Manny Pacquiao stops Danny Garcia. I do think that, or maybe stop him with just not like a KO style, but I think he just buzzsaws him, raises up his face where there's going to be a stoppage there. Anyways, we're at the end of our show, man. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Remember, we're back on every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific and Eastern time. at 8 p.m. with myself, my co-host Amilcar and Kenny. As always, so be sure to tune in. You can catch us here live on Blog Talk. You can always call in 347-215-798. And on YouTube, guys. Again, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the fights. Catch up with us on Twitter. Talk to you guys soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros,